So when you get to GitHub, you should be logged in. I'm already logged in here. So I'll show you the steps you need to follow in order for you to get your client secrets and your client ID. So come to your profile picture here, click on it, and scroll down. Down here, you click on settings. Then from settings, you come to this side, scroll down, and you come to developer settings. In the developer settings, you see GitHub apps, auth apps. We want the auth apps, so we click on it. Now I already have an app that I've created here, but if you've not created at all, you see a button here asking you to create one, like something like what you have here under the GitHub apps when we opened it, something like this. So there's a button here. So similarly, in this one, we'll just click on new auth app. Yeah. All right. So I'll just call this NextAuth thoughts, something like that would work. Then for the home URL, we'll be working in a local environment. So just take the localhost 3000. Then the app description is optional. Then for the authorization callback, now this is where the authentication will be completed. So we need to give them like a route where they should go through and get whatsoever details that they want. So once you are done with this, you click on register application, and that creates your client ID and the client secret. Now for you to generate your client secret, just click on the generate button there, and it will give you this secret here. Then you need to save it somewhere. We'll be using it in a bit, but for you to understand what we're talking about, just come down to these providers here in NextAuth documentation. Come down to providers and go to GitHub. We just did what we did now for GitHub, and so look at here. It is asking for client ID, and then the client ID will be saved as GitHub ID and client secrets as GitHub secret. It is same thing for Google. When you come down here, you see it's asking for client ID, and it will be saved as Google client ID, and the client secret as Google client secret, something like that. So these are the things we just need. Once you have these two, we are good to go for most of the providers we have here. So now I've shown you how to get your client ID and client secret for for GitHub. So the next one we want to do now is for Google. We want to get the client ID and client secret for Google. For you to do that, you go to console or cloud.google.com. That's where you need to go, and you need to be logged in. Like I am already logged in here. Once you get to this page, which is like the dashboard, click on the APIs and services here under the quick access. Under the quick access menu, you can also find it from around here if you wish. But why should I go there when I have the quick access here? So click on it, API and services. Now something you will notice is I already have a project here that I've created. So since I already have a project here, when I come to credentials and click on it, I can just go straight to create credentials without fixing my OAuth consent screen. But let's say I have a new project. I have not configured the consent screen. First off, I'll need to configure that consent screen. So for example, this one can be NextAuth thoughts, short for tutorial. Create. Okay. I think I'm not supposed to use underscore NextAuth thoughts. You create, and that creates the new organization. Now I will select the project that I just created for the switch to happen. So you can also switch it from here. Want to switch it to this, so switch to this NextAuth thought. Now you notice that there is nothing here, unlike the other one where we have something already here in the auth 2.0 client ID. So what we'll now do is click on the create credentials, come to auth client ID, and because it's new, it will ask us to configure the consent screen. So click on it, click on external when you get to this screen, which is the auth consent screen. Click on external and then click create. Here it asks for app name, so it can just be NextAuth, maybe tutorial. Yeah, that could be anything. I'll pick an email for support email, and I'll pick the same email for the developer contact. It doesn't really matter, so I'll just copy it here and paste it in. By the way, this everything I'm using in this tutorial are basically dummy. They are not real or usable data. For example, this email is just a test email I created, so it doesn't really matter. I could be exposing my keys to you because I wouldn't be needing them after this tutorial, so you do well not to expose your keys. So click on save and continue, and now in the scopes also click on save and continue. Also here click on save and continue. That takes you to the summary, and then click on back to dashboard. So we now have our consent screen well configured. Now back to the credentials. Our consent screen is already configured. So when we come back to these credentials and hit on auth client ID, it should now take us straight to the type of application we want to create. And we want to take the web application because that's what we are creating. Then give it a name too. It could be any name. I just think having NextAuth thought makes more sense. So when you come down here, you add a URI. So same thing as what we did here for GitHub. We added the home page URL, that is the base page URL. So copy this too and come here and paste it. Make sure you remove the / at the end. This wouldn't be accepted here. Then we now add a redirect URL. This is where the authentication will be completed. So also come here, copy what you have here. Every of the provider are similar to each other, so the difference is not much. Paste it down here, and now we have our authorized JavaScript origin and the redirect URLs or URIs. Now create it. As soon as you create it, it should now give you the details that we are looking for. So this is now the client ID, which in this case will be Google Client ID. Then this is the client secrets, which in this case will be the Google Client secrets. How awesome. So in this way, you'll be getting the basic details that you need in order for you to connect or give authorization to these companies to help you do your authentication. And the good thing is that this is free. Nobody's charging you for anything. You could also download the JSON file here that contains all these details, but I don't need it. So I'll just copy these ones. Make sure you have this thing saved somewhere.